I think that when you've been living in a foreign country for a long time, you can sometimes start to forget that you actually are in a foreign country. You get caught up in the regularity of everyday life and work, and for me at least, I forget that there's a bus terminal just across the stream from where I live, and it's actually a gateway for me to go anywhere in this really interesting country. So sometimes I have to remind myself of that, and I have to just pack a bag and go somewhere.
My destination today is Sejong. Sejong is a new city set up to be the secondary capital of Korea. There's various reasons for this, but a significant one is that somebody realized it's not a great idea to have your entire government apparatus within shooting range of North Korea.
I always say that Korea is one of the best places in the world for traveling because you can catch a bus to any city, and when you get to that city, there'll always be a love motel you can stay at. But Sejong turned out to be something of an exception to this rule. When I got to the bus terminal, it was located on the outskirts of the city, and there was only one motel in the general area. But this one motel that was near the bus terminal was called the Coupling Motel. And that's just a bridge too far to me. I caught a bus to Sejong downtown, and I found the area where I would expect there to be a lot of motels. Strangely, there were no motels in this area. So I caught another bus back to the bus terminal, went for a long walk along the highway, and eventually checked myself in to the Coupling Motel. It was fine.
My reason for coming to Sejong was to visit the Sejong National Arboretum. The National Arboretum only opened in 2020, so it still has a lot of growing in to do, but it's a pretty special place. I particularly liked the Palace Garden, a recreation of the royal gardens of Changdeokgung Palace. This pond, according to this sign, was a favorite of King Jongjo, who used to take underlings fishing here and instruct them to compose a poem while on the boat, then maroon them on the island if they failed to satisfy him. Today, King Jongjo would be writing comments on YouTube. But my primary reason for coming here was to see the bonsai, one of the best collections in Korea.
This is what I came here for, a bunjewan. That's pretty cool. Golden red pine, interesting.
Something I've been thinking about for a while is, what is Korean bonsai? I have no special knowledge on the subject, there being little information available in English and not having anyone to discuss it with, so all my opinions come from my own observations. I would say that if Chinese penjing represents a kind of romantic pastoralism and Japanese bonsai represents an idealization of form, then Korean bonsai tends to highlight the wildness of an ancient tree in nature. The bonsai on display at the Arboretum reinforced this idea. I liked the unashamed highlighting of the inverse taper on this tree. Look at the incredible trunk on this black pine. Perhaps my favorite tree was this pine. It's so incredibly wild.
It's a weird tree, this one. Very funky. Would you leave that on a tree? I wouldn't, but I like it.
I also liked the displays of bonsai soil ingredients and tools. And there was also a display devoted to every bonsai newbie's favorite question. How often should I water my bonsai? But there is a fine line between wildness and just not caring very much. I was surprised to see such a rough application of aluminium wire on such a fine old conifer, but I suppose it gets the job done. At the end of the garden I found this sign. According to this sign, bonsai is known to have come to Japan via Korea. Although somewhat confusingly, the sign then acknowledges that this isn't at all clear from the historical record. It's such a Korean thing to say. We know we were doing it before Japan, but we can't prove it.
So when I saw this sign, I actually started to get a little bit annoyed. I don't know why Korea always has to do this. I don't know why everything has to be a big fight with Japan. Yeah, okay, bonsai probably did go to Japan via Korea. If you look at a map, Korea is between China and Japan, so it would make sense that it came to Korea first. But I'm pretty sure that Korean bonsai as it currently exists probably came back to Korea with the Japanese occupation. Unlike a lot of things that Korea likes that came from Japan during the occupation, they're very conflicted about that. Case in point would be the Yoshino cherry tree, the standard palest pink, most beautiful cherry tree that exists everywhere in Japan and everywhere in Korea. So Korea tried for a really long time to convince itself and convince nobody else that the Yoshino cherry actually came from Jeju Island in Korea. They found another kind of cherry tree on Jeju Island that looked apparently almost identical. And for a while they were saying, hey, Japan stole our cherry tree. Why? Because they felt conflicted about the fact that cherry trees and picnicking under cherry trees was a tradition that came to Korea during the Japanese occupation. And Koreans hate the Japanese occupation, understandably, but also understandably they like taking picnics under cherry trees. So they had to make the cherry tree Korean. Unfortunately, genetic testing showed this was a different tree, and the Yoshino cherry comes from Tokyo. There's really no doubt about it. The thing that's kind of related is I really liked the trees that I saw in the Arboretum, but there was a certain sameness to them, a stodgy quality to them. There are a lot of really thick-trunked trees with a canopy kind of loosely formed over them. The collection was mostly made up of junipers and black pines. And if Korea wants to get away from the tradition of Japanese bonsai, I really don't know why they don't look at the red pine. The red pine is Korea's national tree. It's the tree that Korea gets upset about being called the Japanese red pine. They want it to be the Korean red pine, and I think they have a point. And all around the Arboretum, as there is all around here, were hundreds of Korean red pines. And I wondered why they didn't feature that and feature that distinctive literati, twisting style of the Korean red pine. There is another kind of style of Korean bonsai. It's the style that I saw at Oita. It seems to be done by young Korean women. It pays no attention to trying to represent a tree as it exists in nature. Instead, it seems to take more kind of inspiration from flower arrangement, and I really like it. And for that reason, I think one of the most interesting trees I saw at the Arboretum was actually this really small ginkgo. And I'm not sure what the deal was with this ginkgo. It kind of looked like an accent plant, but none of the other trees had accent plants. It didn't have a label, it was just sitting there by itself. And it almost seemed like somebody's practical joke. And if it was, kudos to that person, because I kind of felt like that was a really interesting thing, a really interesting style, sort of representing new Korea. And so I really hope the Arboretum can kind of in the future go in that direction, feature a more distinctive Korean style of bonsai, not just massive black pines with a somewhat lazy canopy put over them. Having said all that, I'm so glad I went. I saw some amazing trees. And if you do happen to be in Korea, I really recommend you check out the Arboretum. Don't stay in Sejong though, it's the pits. Stay in Daejeon, it's only 10 minutes away. See ya.